we were just non-denominational. We were Christian.
Did your parents ever introduce you to anything Catholic or mention anything?
No, I didn't even know arguments against Catholicism. My family went through a very big divorce. And when it puts you in this state of this perpetual church shopping, this became for me, home was no longer home light. The liturgical dance, as you will, of just the priest moving and singing to the people. Something in me was like, this is it.
Hello, everybody, and welcome back to Leave the 99. Today, I'm joined by a very special friend, Mr. Will Hadden of the Diocese of Charleston. Will, how are you doing today?
Doing good, man. Thank you for having me.
Of course. Thank you so much for coming on the show, and I know you're a busy person, so I'm very glad you were able to make some time and come along with us and share your story. So today, for all of you guys watching, Will is a convert to Catholicism. He spent most, if not over half his life as, correct me if I'm wrong, I think non-denominational Christian.
Yeah.
Grew up in the non-denominational Christian church and converted to Catholicism when he was in high school. He's actually a former youth minister of me, funny enough, and he later afterwards entered the seminary as he's repping the diocesan shirt right there.
It's the new polo we got.
Yeah, that's awesome.
We got
that's
new
Cool.
swag.
Yeah, no, it looks good.
Yeah.
Looks good. So we're just going to jump right in. I'm hoping you guys can really get something from his story. It's a very, very deep and impactful story. The moment in particular that is the most striking is when he encounters the sacraments, when he encounters the Mass for the first time. And I really want you guys to pay attention to that very carefully. So we're just going to dive right in. Well, again, you're growing up, right? What was your relationship like with your faith, in particular the church you were attending?
Yeah,
growing up. Yeah, you can go ahead.
So growing up, I as much as I would like to say it, that most people I hear from in the Protestant church will say, we attended church on Sunday and maybe we did youth group and maybe we had the common prayer just throughout for before meals or before dinner. But I would like to say that, I was writing a Christmas card for my mom this Christmas, and I did write her sincerely. I said, Mom, thank you so much for everything, but mostly thank you for my faith and inspiring me in that as a little young boy. I remember growing up, we would always go to church on Sunday. We would always go to church for youth group on Wednesdays. We always prayed before meals. We prayed before we went to bed. My mom and dad thought it was very important to take me on mission trips.
Where to? Sorry.
So they would take me to projects in the area. We would work on houses, kind of like what Blaine would do. They would work on houses. Yeah. And so we would do stuff like that. My mom was very big into the mission work. I remember when I was a young boy, probably around 6 or 8 years old, my mom went on this big trip to Africa. She served there for a month. I remember her writing me letters about how the gospel is being spread. And for for me at least, Jesus and the church and the faith has always been a part of my story. And so I can say that with graciousness that, it's not the fullness that I've received now, but kind of like the Israelites, being led into the fullness of revelation when Jesus becomes man. Just as me as well, I've had my story of where Jesus and God have revealed themselves to me, and then over time have just revealed themselves to me in more and more and more ways. Yeah. And so I remember one of the most striking moments that I had as a kid, and I think this was before I was baptized. My dad, during Easter, kind of the Holy Week, there was this Protestant church in the area in Conway, and they were putting together this live action Passion. And I remember
like a film?
It was in person.
Oh, okay. Wow.
Kind of like how we would do like the stations or like live stations.
Play style.
But I mean, this thing was
legit.
It was legit. They made it was out in the woods and they made this entire city.
Wow. And
they had actors who were amazing. I remember the most striking moment for me was it was pitch black in the dark. And Jesus, their actor, was walking from just being condemned by Pilate to being crucified. And I remember him holding the cross all ragged up and beaten. And I remember the cross just slamming on the ground in front of me and the dust rising, from the dirt and seeing Jesus on the ground. And I remember having kind of nightmares after this of Roman guards running in my room and taking me in my sleep. And I feel like all those little moments, it was kind of like a lectio, like a meditation, at least when I was a kid. I had no idea what I was doing, but I would reflect on this and what this gospel meant to me. So I remember receiving my first Bible after being baptized.
When did you get baptized?
I got baptized at 13 years old.
Okay.
I was baptized in the ocean. It was Trinitarian formula. So cool. I have the certificate to prove it. And I remember them with each wave. I baptize you in the name of the Father, the Son, and the Holy Spirit. And I remember after that, just really taking the faith seriously. I was reading my Bible. Mm-hmm. I really loved in particular the Gospel of Luke. It was, I remember the faith was always big to me. I knew scripture. I would go to mass. I would not go to mass, but I would go to church.
Yeah.
That kind of led me up until my middle school and high school era.
Yeah.
So growing up, at least Protestant, there's this thing, especially amongst non-denominational Christians, that you find a church that you love. And I remember my family, they would always get involved with the youth. My dad would be involved with the security team, and my mom would teach. And something would happen where the church would either break apart or the pastor would say something that you didn't agree with.
Gotcha.
And would put you in this state of this perpetual church shopping.
Yeah.
Of trying to find a new church.
Like nomads. Like Christian nomads, basically.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And just trying to find a place that matches with your idea of Christianity and a place that you feel like at home. So I remember my parents would just bounce from one place to the next. And I think that put a lot of pressure on me because I never had that security, that confirmation, as you would say. And so I remember finding this one place. It was called Wellspring Church in Myrtle Beach. And I got really big in the youth group there. I was involved with their service ministry. And that place was definitely home for me. I would go there, and most of the time I just go to youth group because there was pretty girls. But I also knew a lot. So I would go there and I would share, and like, this is how I experienced the gospel. And
this was all during middle school, you said?
Middle school, but mostly now this would be kind of in the high school, freshman, sophomore year.
Gotcha.
So my freshman, sophomore year, I'm doing this. I'm kind of the popular kid in a way at school. I'm hanging out with the known kids, but I was known by them all, but I wasn't really friends with them all.
Yeah.
I was known by many, but not really known, only by a few. And so I would hang out with people, and I had this sense of I had to become popular or be successful or do whatever. And so that was driven in everything, even the life at church. So I'd be at church trying to get like a girl's Snapchat or trying to take them out on a date.
Yeah.
It became just this, as many people, this social place to come to.
Exactly.
And so it was in this period that I met my best friend, at the time, because
Joey Parisi. He was on here a couple of weeks ago.
Yeah, so. Joey Parisi was in here, and I owe most of my story to him. I was taking honors calculus, and I hated honors calculus, and I'm not the best with the most challenging classes, and that class was definitely challenging. So I switched out of it, and I was put into a business class with my now best friend Joey Parisi, who I didn't know who he was before. Maybe we bumped into each other in the hallway and we said hi. And I remember we got really close. It was this business class that we were putting together this virtual business to go and present in New York City at this virtual contest where whoever had the best marketing plan, business plan, financial plan would win a serious prize and would get some recognition from entrepreneurs. And so Joey and I put our hearts into this. He did the finance and I did the marketing. And
that suits you both.
Yeah, it does. And we went to this competition, and it was here in New York City that Joey would just randomly, he told our teacher, he says, "Today is Palm Sunday and I want to go to mass." And I'm like, what is Palm Sunday? And what is mass? I've got no idea what either of these things
You've
are.
never been exposed to any Catholicism yet?
I definitely had been to maybe a girlfriend's confirmation, but I didn't understand really what I was experiencing.
Yeah.
And so, and it was, for what I experienced, most of the stuff that I went to was very similar to high church, Protestantism that I went to. Mm-hmm. And so I didn't really distinguish. I didn't know the terms of what everything was. And so,
And did your parents ever introduce you to anything Catholic or mention anything, or did you ever hear?
No, I didn't even know arguments against Catholicism.
Okay, wow.
Most people, I think being non-denominational, at least some of them are not as anti-Catholic as maybe Baptists, or some, Calvinists.
Yeah.
And so at least we were just non-denominational. We were Christian. And so everyone is a Christian, who confesses Christ. And I'm sure, I don't know how well the arguments, would have held up, you know, so maybe they wouldn't have taught us them, but jokingly, but I was never really exposed to anything, at least a structured ecclesiology of anything. And so I never knew any arguments against Catholicism.
Okay.
Maybe one of my girlfriends might have talked about the sacrament of penance, but I had no idea. Okay. And so we go to this place, we go to this mass. It's called Holy Innocents in New York City. Yeah. It's an institute of Christ the King parish. And so it's the extraordinary form of the mass. And it was completely different than anything I had ever experienced before, coming from smoke machines and rock, and praise and worship. Yeah. It wasn't too charismatic, like they never did prayer hands or anything like that, but still.
The guitar and
you walk into this church. Yeah. It's hundreds of years old. It's in the middle of two little skyscrapers, and they have it has this beautiful mural of the Passion of John and Our Lady and Jesus on the cross, and then all of heaven rejoicing. I remember just sitting there, just being like, all my friends were talking, of course, and but I just remember.
Wait, did your teacher take the entire class?
She took the entire class.
Wow.
So we had the entire class. So all of us got in our suits that we were in our business for our business trip. Yeah. And
was the teacher Catholic at all?
No. Really? So it's really, all of these things have just happened by chance. Yeah. Not by chance. Well, definitely divine providence. Yeah, but absolutely. At least in that point, it's like the probability of this teacher taking us all to the church.
On a school trip.
Yeah,
it's pretty remarkable.
Yeah. And it was in this church that I remember looking at Joey and seeing his demeanor, his sense of awe, his sense of reverence, the beauty of the mass. And something just hit me. I was like, whatever this is, I want this. Yeah. The peace, the quiet, the majesty, the awe, the splendor, all of this I couldn't put words to at the time. But I was like, whatever this is, I want it. Yeah. So I told Joey, I'm like, I want to go to mass with you when I come home.
Yeah. Was there a specific moment you'd say in that mass that hit you?
I would say the whole thing, because even in the mass, I mean, it's been a long time since, and so everything is kind of blurred into one thing. But I would definitely just say the mass and the liturgy, the beauty, the movements, the liturgical dance, as you will, of just the priest moving and singing to the people and the people singing back to him. It's just something in me was like, this is it. Yeah. And some people, they might take a longer approach to that. They might have to think about, the liturgical arguments. But for me, it was whatever this is, it was just this infusion of grace. Yeah. I want this. Yeah. So that's kind of where the story has its climax, and it keeps going up from there. But
and then so after this is, because it's a crazy experience for you, and it's really the first time you've ever been exposed to anything from the Catholic faith at all, and it's just remarkable, especially through the traditional Latin Mass in particular. I think that's the most interesting part about it, and so I think there's a sacramental reality, right? That's very, that's obviously built into how the church functions. And in my own personal belief, I think people like you exist a lot more than people think. Yeah. And so just, and keep, I honestly, I really want to keep hearing
Sure.
what else happens, because obviously, there's a big step from, you're what, 16 or 17 at that time?
At this point, it was my sophomore year, so it was 15. And I wanted to be Catholic for a year before I could enter RCIA.
Okay, wow.
Because the RCIA had just started or something like that.
Gotcha, you were a little late.
Yeah, because it was Palm Sunday.
Yeah.
And it was so like it would have been a week since Easter.
Mm-hmm.
And so they were like, yeah, you have to wait until the next cycle.
Mm-hmm.
So it was in this that I remember Joey and I, after that mass, we went to St. Patrick's in New York City.
Really?
How
much, like, what was the time difference there? You went to Holy Innocents?
Holy Innocents was probably 15 minutes, because Holy Innocents and St. Patrick's aren't that far from each other.
Well, no, I'm not saying the distance. I'm saying how far apart were those two experiences?
Oh, this same trip.
The same trip?
Yeah, this is the same trip. So we left Holy Innocents, and then for the rest of that day, we were exploring uptown New York. So it was on Fifth Avenue where the Trump Tower is and all that stuff. And I think, and you might correct me on the geographicness of it, or the geographical area of it. But
somebody can fact check.
We didn't ask James Leonard. He probably can tell you. Tell you about the New York, but we never took a train. So I only remember walking. I remember it being quick. Mm-hmm. And I remember walking to St. Patrick's. It was they were in the midst of a mass. And Joey and I, because we couldn't go around and look, we just walked in the back left corner, and there was this big statue of Our Lady. And me and him lit a candle together. Oh, wow. I said, whatever this is, maybe he's like, Our Lady will help us. And we lit a candle in the back, and it is under her, her matriarchy, or under her maternal protection, that this sacramental life was encouraged, and I was brought to a greater reality of Christ. And I would attribute most of that to her ability, through Christ, to bring me in as a mother.
Yeah. They say Mary is like the moon because she reflects the sun.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's awesome.
And so, I got back home and I told my family I'm going to start going to mass. And
what was their reaction?
They were like, what? So my mom grew up Catholic. And
oh, okay, wow.
Yeah, so my mom grew up Catholic, very young though, at a very young age.
Yeah.
And so her family had went through a divorce, and it was kind of hard for them to get through the divorce. And so I guess maybe for some time, maybe she had some resentment to the church, and she had this idea of what she thought the church was.
Yeah.
And so with that context, now I'm wanting to become Catholic. And I think out of love, she was trying to protect me.
Yeah.
Maybe she didn't know all the theological arguments about why I shouldn't become Catholic, from her Protestant angle. And but I remember there just being a little friction. They were always supportive, because I could have been doing worse things. I could have been partying or doing some bad stuff. It's like, hey, I want to go to church. And whether she agreed with what church it was, she was supportive, but also at the same time, there was still kind of friction from it. So I started going to mass with Joey's family every weekend. I remember one of the first masses I went to, I had to learn how to genuflect. I had to learn how to do the sign of the cross.
Yeah.
I learned the Hail Mary. I remember Father Ed speaking about adoration in such a way that I literally thought I was going to walk in the room and see Jesus in the body. Because it was so I guess in a way I was very innocent and naive, and that wholly naive,
Yeah, exactly. I mean, you were, you're a child in the faith. So it's beautiful.
Yeah.
Don't think it's not. It's
for sure. It was. Yeah. I walked in, I'm like, oh, this makes sense now. And so, But I remember reading the Bible in there and just coming across John chapter 6. Yeah. I remember coming across 1 Corinthians, where Paul is discoursing about the Last Supper. I remember hearing the church's teaching. I remember reading the Bible from a Catholic lens. For me, everything made sense. And I remember telling Miss Parisi, Joey's mom at the time, it was the scriptures are like a symphony, and how the church coincides with this symphony is as a masterpiece. And it all makes sense. There isn't any dissonance between the ideas in the scripture, or it all just was cohesive. And I think that's been the greatest security, apart from living a sacramental life, is that, intellectually, everything connects.
Yeah.
And so
that's beautiful. That was very beautifully put.
Yeah.
Wow. So you come back from this trip, right?
Mm-hmm.
You tell your family you want to be Catholic. So what is your faith? I mean, what's your sort of disciplines that you've been doing up to that point, right? So you've obviously you grew up non-denominational Christian. You said you read the Bible. You said you pray pretty much every day. With your family, before meals and everything. So after this experience happens, what changes?
So yeah, everything changed and nothing was ever the same.
Yeah.
I think I took a greater awareness of my prayer life because in the midst of going through RCIA at this point, that's what we'll say, that's where I'm at.
Yeah.
I'm 16 years old. I'm now in the RCIA point and I'm taking it very seriously. I remember wearing both the brown and the green scapular over my shirt in high school.
Yeah.
So I come from this guy, this, I guess, who's known and he's kind of like a partier in this way. And now I'm walking into school. I'm wearing my Vineyard Vine shirt, of course, but I'm wearing the brown and green scapular.
Yeah.
I'm starting to write my papers and projects on why you should be Catholic and not anything else. Me and my buddies that I was surrounded by because of Joey, I met guys like Alex Mills and Blake Joseph. We started our own group, very ambitious, called the Sodality of St. Joseph. And during this Easter process, it was very much like Exodus 90, but we were very ambitious and we made it extremely much harder than it needed to be.
Yeah.
The Exodus 90.
You're still not Catholic.
I'm not Catholic at this point. No.
Yeah, wow.
And so I'm not Catholic. We asked Deacon Andy Thomas to be
I think I remember him.
our spiritual director for our group.
He was at St. Mike's for a while, right?
Yeah.
Yeah.
And it was in this group that we made a pact, and we're meeting every week. We're going to adoration. We're praying for each other, doing all the requirements of Exodus 90 with no mercy.
Yeah.
How sometimes Exodus can allow for,
little rewards on Sundays
we were like, nah.
Yeah.
And so we were very ambitious. And I remember this taking a great effect on me, of being surrounded by your family and the Josephs and the Parisis, and they fostered me in this. I remember Deacon Timmy, Deacon Joseph teaching me the Liturgy of the Hours, and we'd pray morning prayer together. I'm not even Catholic at this point yet. I haven't even come into the church. And so in a great way, I was living this profound life of now being influenced by Catholic prayer, but sacramentally, I had received baptism, but I haven't been confirmed. I haven't received confession. I haven't received communion. And it was that sacramental brotherhood and friendship that really kept me in. And so the biggest point is this, and I think why I became so serious about it all is in the midst of my RCIA, my family went through a very big divorce. And in a lot of ways, this became for me, home was no longer home light. And so the church became my home.
Yeah.
The Adoration Chapel became my home. Going to daily mass became my home. Surrounding myself with you guys became my home. And in a lot of ways, I think I'm very gracious to God that it's almost like this whole problem was allowed in a sense. But even before this was going to happen, all of the cards and everything was set into place to take care of me. Yeah. And it was like, you're about to go through some hardship, especially with with anyone's family, it's hard. Yeah. But before I was about to enter into the belly of the whale, he gave me you guys. And I'm forever thankful of that. And
that happens during your RCA.
In the middle of it.
Yeah. Wow.
Yeah. It was very, very hard. But like I said, the church was my refuge. Yeah. And Christ, and in the very realist way possible, had to become my refuge. Yeah. And so I think that drove me into really taking this seriously, and that this faith, whatever this is that I'm discerning, is the most realist thing that I will ever know. And so, like I said, through it all, I was really, really on fire because this became my home. And so with that is kind of the context into whatever you'd like to speak about. And but
well, that's very just very fortunate, very providential that like God gave you that. And it's funny because he just works like that sometimes, you know. And it's in those moments you don't understand. You know, there's a good Bible verse that I love, and it tells me in times of times just like that. And Christ is speaking to his apostles, and he says, "You may not understand now, but later you will." Right? And these little, you know, these sufferings, these aren't little sufferings, but these sufferings, these sufferings, they strike at the heart of each of us very personally, very uniquely, honestly, and something that a lot of people don't realize. And it's really hard to really gear yourself towards this and to really think like this, because it's painful in the process. But to realize that those experiences, those hardships are given to you as a gift. Yeah. Right? They're given to you as a gift to forward your salvation, right? To be able to get home.
Yeah.
Right? And yeah, I mean it's a beautiful thing how the worst moments in our lives, become almost, you can't have anything else happen without them, right?
Yeah.
There's a real mystery in that. And so I just wanted to highlight that real quick before moving on. But if you had any comments or thoughts on that.
I think with this, you know, we hear at the Easter exclamation, "Oh, happy fault," right? "Oh, happy fault of Adam, which has allowed the incarnation to happen." And I think in the midst of all of that, even still now, like the effects are still hard. But I have thought about it, and it's so easy for me to play the victim. And like, oh, you know, this happened to me. I remember being in the midst of it, like I wish I could have a family like the Murphys, but now I'm glad, you know, despite it all, you know. I think this has really shaped my idea and understanding of what sanctification and sainthood actually looks like.
Yeah.
And we experience these great sufferings, you know, not to downplay any of the sufferings that anyone goes through. But despite it all, you know, there is great healing through it, and the Lord is so good. And I think I write in my journal and I pray every morning, and I look at all the good that has come out of this terrible situation. And I say the exclamation, "Oh, happy fault." You know, God didn't desire in the fullness of his divine will for this to happen, but allowing us to be free, he allowed it, and he's still supreme, and he can make any good out of these present evils. And
absolutely.
Since then, you know, we can maybe get into like the fruit of that. And
I wanted to say just one thing. It's, you know, like you said, there's nothing allowed that God doesn't ultimately gear towards goodness, right?
Yeah.
And it's important to hold on to that, because in that you have hope.
Yeah.
Right. In that you have hope, and it's not to be something that's not something that just goes by. Hope is not just a mere feeling. It's a grounded reality. It's a grounded truth that takes a lot of faith to be grounded in, right? Something else as well, when we experience these sufferings, and you know what you said, the church became your home, right?
Yeah.
There's such beauty in that, because you know we have over 2,000 years of all these friends, all these saints, right?
Yeah.
Who have experienced sufferings just like you, experienced sufferings, you know, to the end of death, right? 11 out of the 12 apostles were all martyred, and they died brutal deaths, right? And even John, who's the one who didn't get martyred, was exiled. You know, so within that, and there's this whole crowd of heaven, right, that cheers you on as you're in the middle of your darkest times, you know.
And you pray like, I wish I could see it.
Yeah, absolutely.
It's so easy to say, but it's so easy to say, but it's so hard to believe in the present moment.
Yeah. which is why we go to the sacraments, which is why we go to the church, right? This is why we have, things like icons. This is why we have the Blessed Sacrament, We have all these great gifts from God, and, seeing images of heaven is very important because we can't, this even speaks back to your experience with Mass in particular, but we need help. We need help to raise our hearts and our minds and our souls to heaven. Yeah. Because we are finite, weak creatures. We need help so badly. And it's such a beautiful, it takes time, and it requires a lot of faith, painful faith. Yeah. Painful faith, but sanctifying faith. Yes, absolutely. And it just makes everything that comes after it even sweeter. Yeah. Right?
Yeah. God is good.
But just to go on, so this happens in the middle of your RCIA program. And so this happens right in the middle. So the latter half of it, talk me through what you're bringing to prayer. Obviously you're bringing that to prayer, but how are you working through that with the people around you now that you have? Yeah. And especially with your relationship with God, because that had to have been very, very tenuous on your relationship with him.
I think for me, the greatest thing is that prayer became ever increasingly more necessary, and realizing just the nature of prayer, as this, the rising of one's mind to God, and the assent of one's will, to do the will of God. And so prayer became more than just this process. It became a reality of, I need you. At every single step of the day, I need you, God. I would desire the peace that I had from becoming Catholic. I would desire it for my family. And with that desire, it can be very ambitious. I wanted them to convert as quickly as possible.
Yeah.
And
the salesman comes out of you.
Oh, the salesman, the soapbox, yeah. Every convert, we got our soapbox and we stand on it, and we convert and to return. And it only caused more division, and it only came out of a way that was greater than you. And so I'm like, this is not working. Whatever this is not working with my family. And so I started something just hit me, is like, I have to live it. I have to live the mystery. Preaching to them and doing all these things is not working. And preaching is great, rightfully so, and it has its place. But now more than ever, I need to live it. I need to live this reality. And so for maybe a year and a half or 2 years, my life became mysterious. I would be with them, I'd hang out. I really want to talk about the faith around them, because I only knew that it might just cause an argument, and I wasn't willing to have it. And I recently had a lot of consolation with that. After reading this book about Blessed Pier Giorgio, now Saint Pier Giorgio, he would try to relate, to his parents, the experiences that he was having, but he was always deemed like a Jesus freak. Yeah. And so he just said, he would be silent at dinners.
Yeah. His parents were divorced as well, right?
They were Catholic. They were about to divorce.
Yes.
And so there was turmoil in the house. His parents were very successful, and he would have this hidden life, which his parents had no idea. And I was like, live the mystery. Whatever this looks like, live the mystery. And so I would go to daily Mass. I would go to Mass on Sundays, and I really wouldn't tell them what was going on in my church life. And so I think that mystery set a great, it laid down a good fertilization of the soil of this hidden life in Christ. Just like Christ, who spent 30 years, hidden.
Before he went public.
Before I became public and a public figure of the church. I had my couple of years of that hidden life with Christ, and just being a dude and struggling with stuff in high school, and going now as a Catholic, going to the sacraments and going to communion and the sacrament of confession frequently, and just struggling with this, like, am I ever going to be a saint, or is my family ever going to convert? Are they ever going to experience this peace, this longing? And And so I gave that all to God. I'd go many hours before the Blessed Sacrament with your sibling, your sister, and spending time with my friends and just and talking with them. And in the greatest ways, I was really nourished by them. They loved me. They brought me in like a son. They would, I look to like your father and Deacon Timmy, Deacon Joseph as these great father figures in my life who've taught me they've taught me virtue and how to be a young man. And so I'm very grateful for all that. And I had my rough parts where I was in the party life, and I had I started dating a girlfriend in high school, wanted to convert her, very on fire. That failed. And I ended up just becoming, it was during COVID. I had no one pushing me at home. It kind of became lukewarm.
Yeah. So before we get into the latter half of your kind of post-conversion high school experience, I want to focus on the night you converted, the night you officially went public, right?
So
what was that experience like? Actually, now I think about it, it was COVID, right?
It was COVID. So there was no Easter Mass.
That's right, yeah. I forgot about that.
I had to wait 50 more days.
Yeah.
The church asked me to be confirmed on Pentecost. I'd previously been sick. And so I couldn't meet the requirement of going to first confession and first reconciliation when they did. So I received confession the same day, but right before my confirmation Mass. So I received confession, confirmation, and Holy Communion. And because of COVID and all this stuff, I look back at the pictures and I'm wearing like a pizza mask as I'm receiving my first communion. Yeah. And it's something I'm really jealous, like sidebar, like something I'm really jealous, like jokingly jealous of. I look at y'all's first communion.
Yeah.
Here I am wearing a pizza mask, receiving on my knees and, on the tongue. And I don't know. That whole night was just crazy for me.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways,
you're 17 by this time.
17.
Yeah.
And receiving 3 sacraments within one day, just boom, boom, boom. And I feel like I still don't even truly realize just the explosion of grace that I had received from that day.
Yeah.
And how I thought that I was already living this devout and holy life, and how even now it's like each sacrament is just changing the gear. One gear, higher speed, and deeper intimacy at each step.
Yeah.
And this is something that I'm even just focusing on now within this last year of being a seminary. Is just the sacramental reality that we live that was made present to me.
Yeah.
At that moment. And it was like the roof had been blown off. The roof that had been holding me down in my Protestant reality of just knowing as much as I could know. And in a way, I could only experience things through sight and hearing, just seeing the band and hearing the band. But now in this greater reality, I'm hearing the word, I'm smelling, the incense, the oil that's on my head, I'm feeling it. I taste, the host that's on my tongue. I'm hearing beautiful music. And so in this greater reality, I've been in the inherent incarnational aspect as being man, sight, taste, touch, smell. Everything had been activated that night at confirmation. So it's like I became fully human, in this.
Yeah, that's beautiful.
Yeah, it's something I've just been really experiencing now is that I became fully human in that moment. And Christ desires all of it. And so, that becoming public was great. And you get the gifts, and we went to Waffle House after. And, awesome. But it was that first communion, then the next Holy Communion, the next Holy Communion, and then probably a confession. And then more and more of that. And it's just, I've been living it ever since now.
Yeah. Awesome. Praise God.
Yeah.
Yeah. So after you're public.
Yeah.
Right. After you're public, you go back to school. Your senior year is 2021.
2021.
Yep. Yeah, I remember I was a freshman. So your senior year of high school was particularly a very interesting one.
Oh yeah.
Right, with COVID and everything. How did you navigate How did you navigate your faith alongside with COVID, and also going back now as just like you said, now I'm fully human, right?
Yeah.
Into this secular culture, this degenerate culture, really, especially in high school.
Yeah. I think you could say, like, what did you do? It's like, I failed miserably. Respectfully, I did. That support system that I had, your families, all right, quarantine, lockdown.
Yeah.
I'm at home. You're exposed to everything, via internet, and just being complacent, and it was a very, very hard time. The church had given the general dispensation from requiring you to be at mass on Sundays. The Easter Vigil was reduced, and I didn't have parents that forced me to go to mass. Yeah. And so in a lot of ways, my spiritual life was not being fed. My humanity was not being fed, and I wasn't working out. I wasn't doing anything. You'd sit home and play Minecraft and just do nothing all day. You couldn't go hang out with your friends because everyone was afraid of it. It was a hard time. Yeah. And then on top of that, I had a girlfriend who I was trying, to convert. Yeah. And on top of that, I have no discipline. Yeah. I have no boundaries.
We're in can't give what you haven't received.
Yeah. Yeah. The sacramental life is now being diminished more and more, just because of the grave nature of what COVID was. And so in a lot of ways I failed, and I was really drawn into a life of temporal pleasure. And I would go and party, and I remember there would always be boundaries, and I would always tiptoe and cross one. Yeah. And you tiptoe and cross another, and you tiptoe and cross another, not just with her, but with rallies. Like, I'm going to start drinking now. Yeah. I'm going to start partying now. Yeah. I'm going to get a fake ID. And then the fake ID start like, I'm going to go to a bar. And it's just, I was just caught up in that life. And I didn't have a support system at that time. And in reality, I probably pushed people away more than I could. So like Alex or them would reach out and be like, don't reach out to me.
Okay. Wow.
Yeah. So it was really hard.
Yeah. So coming back, your senior of high school, that's kind of the sort of, reality you're living in, right? So how are you making, so there seems to be now a sort of disconnect. Yeah. Right. And you're graduating high school, you're looking at what you're going to do for the next at least 4 years, right? How is your faith influencing your college decision and what you want to do? I know you end up just really working. Yeah. As far as
most people don't know, but I was in Ori Georgetown. I went to Ori Georgetown Tech for a month, but I didn't do anything with it. Yeah. It was online. I didn't care. And so the decision-making process there, it was whatever I could do to make as much money and to get as much, sense of fulfillment, out of life. My family wasn't always the most successful, so I really wanted to be successful. I wanted to appear successful to my friends. And so my decision was, I had always been working in restaurants, and I want to be very successful in restaurants. And I remember just, this culmination of everything coming together, not having boundaries, not having discipline, not having a life of sacraments. And it was New Year, I think it was New Year's or Thanksgiving. I went to the Parisi's house. Finally, I can't run anymore from it. Yeah. And I'm sitting there, and Miss Parisi comes up to me, this lady who I think of like as a mother. You are worldly. You are worldly, and you're worldly in front of all your friends. And all of my friends are standing in front of me. All of my friends. And she says, you are worldly.
On the spot?
Because she loves me. Yeah. And I was so angry. I ran. I didn't run, but I just immediately left. Yeah. It's like, I'm never talking to them again. And then it just hit me. I was like, I'm worldly right now. What am I doing? My life is gray. And I remember I went to confession after that, and I was just called out, and I was bawling, to Father Paul. Yeah. It's like, Father, I had this fire, this zeal, and so easily I let the wick die out, and so easily I I completely just left the things that had been providing me peace and security. I just sat there bawling, and even to say that, I had received communion
Yeah.
unworthily.
Yeah.
You know, this thing that my home,
Yeah.
bawling, and the mercy that I had received through that confession and absolution, and it sprung me, you know, back into this fire. And so that at that point, that is about the end of my senior year, the beginning of my freshman year outside of high school.
Freshman month.
So
Yeah. Awesome.
that's where I'm at now. This big reversion after this crazy year.
Yeah. That's so crazy. Miss Prezy. That's awesome. That is such a motherly.
And if you know her too, it's like,
yeah, that's awesome.
She's like, you're worldly. You're worldly. That's awesome. I'm like, no, I'm not. But I was.
Yeah. It's what you're talking about here is very James Leonard, his conversion, very beautiful conversion, something he talks about all the time, especially. I very much admire him for just his consistency of saying yes, right? And he talks about, he's discerning religious life right now, and he might not like that I'm saying this, but he's thinking about joining the Franciscan friars, the TORs, and one of their charisms is I forget exactly what it is, but it's along the lines of something of our forwarding our own continuing conversion, right?
Yeah.
Constantly saying yes, right? Constantly saying, as you've told me before, thy will be done, right?
Yeah.
And there's a lesson to be learned. I'm sure you learned it in that experience of, once you believe in Christ, and when you truly accept the fullness of faith, right, the fullness of his church, the fullness of what he claimed, who he claimed to be, right?
Yeah.
There is ultimately a choice that is not a one-time thing, right?
Yeah.
It's a choice that you have to choose every moment of every day for the rest of your life.
Yeah.
And it's tough.
It is.
It's hard.
I feel like I resonate. One of the greatest saints that I feel like I resonate with most is St. Peter.
Yeah.
Because I'm very, if you know me, I'm either yes or no. I'm hot or cold.
Mm-hmm.
I'm very passionate. And dude, I fall. But I feel like him. Even if I fall, I always run back to the church. And, in a lot of ways, I'm human and I'm a dude and I'm trying. And I feel like I look at James and I'm like, I love that guy. And I think he's more like a Saint John, James is at the bosom,
drawing near to the heart,
and I'm more like Saint Peter, where I constantly am like,
you cut off the ears of people.
It's like, Peter, do you love me? And it's like, yeah, I love you, Lord. Like, and it's like he denies him and comes back, and even you see like the Quo Vadis Domini, even at the end, Peter was like, I don't, but all right. So I feel like that's just the beauty. We were talking about the saints and all these different lives, and my sanctity and yours is going to look completely different. And maybe my story and the way that I fall and I'm brought back up can inspire someone else too that is struggling, that does fall.
Absolutely.
Bounces back up and
absolutely. Well, so you have this beginning stage of your reversion, so to speak. So there's not much. I guess I probably should just let you go, let you talk, because I don't exactly know the time between that and then when you enter into seminary. I mean, I take that back. You were my youth minister for a year.
Yeah.
So I guess, what was the time frame between that reversion and then you taking up the youth ministry job?
So there's probably maybe 2.5 years, probably in between that and me taking up youth ministry. What had happened was, so I had my reversion. At this point, I'm serious. I'm coming back in, and it's not like I'm, I have that flame just yet.
Yeah.
And so, my best friend Joey starts dating at this time Olivia Mesmer, and the whole Ave thing. They meet and they fall in love. But she came up and visited, and she asked Joey to come up and work at this camp called St. John's. And so she said to me, Will, I think that you would do really good here. And it's just a week. And I go with Joey and I go to work at St. John's. And my life was changed. I go there and they have adoration every day, working with the youth, getting to work with seminarians, working with priests like Father Ray, having talks, meeting young Catholics like me. That's one thing that was hard here is that I never had, once all my friends went to college, I had no Catholic circle. So that too was hard.
Yeah.
So meeting all of these kids or guys, these men and women that were on fire for the faith inspired me. I remember this one seminarian who's now a priest, and he said to me at this time, he says, Will, how is your faith? And probably thousands of people have asked me that, but that was a pivotal moment for me. I said, it's not the best, that I wish it could be better. And coming from that, it was like that De Profundis prayer, like that profound prayer of just, I want to thrive and do well, and I want to be on fire, but I also know that I've fallen and I want to come back in. And I just remember coming back from St. John's just on fire, and I would go to adoration every night and I would pray. And in the midst of this, going to adoration every night for maybe a month and a half, every night I would go to adoration. I was working for my family's business at this time, so working 13 to 14 hours a day. I'd go to daily mass in the morning,
restaurants and everything, right?
the restaurants, and I would go to adoration at night. And it was in the midst of this 2-year period that one morning I was at mass, and I was sitting there and I was exhausted from the restaurants, and I'm like, I don't know what I'm doing. And I said, Lord, what do you want me to do? And I don't claim that I heard anything, but it was just, my mind went straight to it without I can even thinking about it. It still has impacted me, and I still think about it to this day. I heard, Will, feed my sheep. And I'm like, okay, I work in a restaurant. I feed your sheep all the time.
Awesome. Yeah.
So I'm like, what? And then nothing. I didn't hear anything after that.
Yeah. Okay. Wow.
And it was
That's
about
so funny.
a month later, just randomly helping out at the church and helping out with pro-life things, randomly running into Mark.
Yeah. Yeah.
That's the context to this, is I had a meeting with my family that they were discussing the possibility of my further involvement in the family business, being able to have a good stream of revenue, to be able to have a good Catholic family. And I was like, yeah, this is nice. This is everything I wanted. And I remember walking out of my family's business in the parking lot and Father Paul calling me saying, Will, I want you to become youth minister. And I'm like, Father, I just had the opportunity of my life, everything that I've been looking for, to become a restaurant owner and to go, not a restaurant owner, maybe potentially restaurant owner, but having a greater involvement. Yeah. And here I am thinking, I want to become a youth minister. Something in me was just stirring, I want to do that. But I also want to make money. Yeah. Because the youth ministers they make nothing. Yeah. And so, it was this weird place. I said, Father, give me 2 weeks to think about it. And it was in this 2 weeks that I went to work with Joey's grandpa in a tailor shop in New York. And Father Paul called me and he says, someone got hurt at the parish and they want to give you a free trip to Jerusalem. And so I'm like, he's like, you have 24 hours to respond. And so
shoot,
this was really weird for me.
Yeah.
I was like, this is crazy.
Yeah.
So I go to Jerusalem about 2 weeks later, and it was there that I was discerning. I'm like, I'm going to take the job with Father Paul, but I'm also going to try to do real estate on the side. And I remember going to this place called Peter's Primacy, just where Peter jumped off the boat after the resurrection, and he swims to Christ, and Christ is on the seashore. Yeah. And it's there that there's this silhouette of Jesus, outstretched hand over Peter, who's on his knees behind the Sea of Galilee, and all it says is, feed my sheep. The same thing that I'd heard. Wow. And it was impactful. I said, Lord, I will do whatever you want me to do. I'm not going to worry about money. Yeah. And I'm going to follow you.
All right, well, so you're in the youth ministry job, right? You told me that it was an outstanding year for you, right?
Yeah.
So the following year, you enter seminary, right? So what was the transition of, you said that you audibly heard God tell you feed.
Audibly. But
for the most,
Yeah, for the most part.
Regardless, you had this message you felt like God was giving you to feed his sheep, right? So what was the transition between feeding his sheep, right, particularly through the youth and youth ministry, to eventually having the potential vocation of priesthood?
So yeah, so when I started, so like we had this process called discernment, and probably many of you know about that, but
Yeah.
So how it started with me is I started off seriously with kind of doubts. I had this higher calling, and I was thinking maybe about joining the military. That would have never worked out. But I had this higher calling, like I want to do something. Looking back in my entire life and seeing Jesus in my life, I always felt like I needed to do something for him.
Mm-hmm.
So that was always in the back of my mind, some higher purpose, some greater call. And so being with Father Paul at the parish and working with him as youth minister, I started to shadow him on many of his outings, whether it be going to bring communion to the sick, last rites, serving at marriages, baptisms, funerals. And the questions that I asked myself, if I want to be a priest,
Mm-hmm.
am I going to be alone?
Yeah.
Will God be enough for me? Am I meant to do this? And a lot of those fears and questions were quickly kind of struck down. Sure, we have those moments where we feel alone. Sure, we have those moments where sometimes we feel like God's not enough. But despite it all, living that life, that sacramental life, now just more than being at Mass and hearing confession or receiving confession, being with the priest while he's out in the field, shepherding to his flock.
Yeah.
And seeing the love that he was giving to these people, to his parishioners, his sheep, and seeing him pour himself out, seeing the people's faces that awake whenever the priest walks in the room as they're about to die, being there, praying on their deathbed, and then serving at their funeral the next day, serving at marriages where 9 months later, there's a kid that we're baptizing for these same people. And I just quickly learned that a lot of the misconceptions I had with the priesthood came from an ignorance of understanding what is the priesthood and how is that lived out. Now, many people might have that ignorance because they don't see the priest more than just at Mass or in the confessional.
Like a machine that just produces sacramental.
Yeah, or just this job.
Yeah.
But really, it's a state of life. And being able to live that experience, the greatest thing for me was the anointing of the sick, the hospital visits, and the funerals.
Yeah.
Because it shocked me. It really humbled me. A lot of people might say to me, like, Will, you're wise beyond your years. I only say maybe I agree with that is because I have now understood the Christian mystery of death and the Christian mystery of Christ coming and redeeming us and living with us and walking with us each and every day from baptism all the way into our death. And I've just participated in his priestly ministry.
Yeah.
And that was it. That was that year was a year of discernment. I met with a spiritual director. I gave him my thoughts and my concerns, and I told him all the hard stuff, and along with all the other things like, family and the struggles with that. But yeah, it was just something I want to follow him.
Yeah.
And that's where day after day, he led me and said, open the right doors and close the ones that need to be closed. And now I'm here in my second year as a seminarian.
Yeah.
And it's been awesome. Hard, but very good.
Awesome.
Very good.
Praise God. So, so you enter into seminary pretty soon.
Yeah.
Right after that. And you do your propedeutic year, right?
Propedeutic year.
That's first year's.
First year now by under Pope Francis, but really it was brought around the time, I believe, of John Paul II, and it was practiced outside of the United States. But under the directory of Pope Francis and the USCCB, I believe they implemented the propedeutic year within the last 2 years.
Yeah.
And so we were kind of a guinea pig class of the propedeutic program down in my seminary, St. Joseph's Abbey, but it was amazing. Yeah. So the propedeutic year is a year where you grow in your spiritual life and your humanity. So especially in the areas of what is prayer, and then in the areas of how can I become more like Christ the man.
Yeah.
And a lot of that comes just with praying, and then also being brutally honest with who am I, and what are my weaknesses, what are my strengths, and how does Christ work between all of them. and where are the areas that I need to be strengthened? Where are the areas that I need to be vigilant? That I might fall or temptations might lead me astray.
Yeah.
So the year was great. No technology, great community, and we live on 1,500 acres of land, and it's just you're in the wilderness like John the Baptist.
Yeah.
So yeah, I loved the propedeutic year. It was really good.
What influenced you to do diocesan seminary rather than pursuing like a religious order, for example, or
For me, I was discerning for a little bit of joining the fraternity. I was thinking about applying with them.
Yeah.
And I honestly felt no peace going that direction. I've always, throughout my life, you hear that you have that call or that little feeling or that little intuition, and it's always kind of the same.
Yeah.
And in a lot of ways, definitely the Holy Spirit working in my life. So at the time, I was discerning the fraternity. I hadn't reached out or anything, but one of my friend's uncles was a fraternity priest. And so I've been talking with him a little bit.
Okay.
But really, it was encountering all of the diocesan seminarians at our parish that would always visit.
Yeah.
And it was hanging out with these guys that are just normal dudes. They're not like,
Yeah.
Now in the Mass, rightfully so, they're very pious, but
absolutely.
Outside of Mass, they're hanging out, we're playing sports, we're having bonfires. Like these guys are just normal dudes that love Jesus. And so it was with them that I was like, whatever these guys have, the same thing that I said about Joey is like, I want whatever these guys have. And so, I also, because I worked for the diocese, I had more of a connection through them.
Yeah.
As a youth minister, I had more connection with them. And then also, too, just being on World Youth Day with James Leonard and Elizabeth and all the people at our parish, but also being with the bishop.
Yeah.
And I remember
you got really close with him.
Yeah, we got really close. And I remember one night he slept in the dirt, he slept in the dirt with all of us at the mission camp where we all wait for the Pope. And he came with all of us. He was in his clerics.
He could have gone. Yeah, he could have gone to his hotel or something. I forget exactly.
He could have gone. He could have just stayed.
Yeah,
most people could have just stayed, but he walked 7 or 8 miles with us in the heat, 101 degree heat, and he slept into the dirt. And I just remember being greatly struck by his witness and his example, and also the example of the Father Williams who had went to with us. He went on that trip, and so. I have been greatly impacted by the diocesan priesthood. And in a way, I was like, I want to become like one of these guys who's I've received so much from. So that's why I went that route.
Awesome. Awesome.
Yeah.
Well, that's the end of not the end of story, excuse me, but at least for now. Yeah, it's a beautiful story. Thank you so much for sharing that with all of us. I hope you guys got something from that. There's a lot to unpack from there.
Yeah.
Yeah, particularly, I said this a little bit earlier. I kind of hinted at this, but in particular, something I really admire well about you and especially your story is, the whole facet of the whole reality, of thy will be done.
Yeah.
Right. Thy will be done. You've gone through a lot of hardship, particularly with your family. I know now there's been a lot of healing, and if you can, if you want to talk about that, you definitely can.
I'd love to share that, and thank you for admiring me and admiring that trait. I mean, honestly, most days I feel like I don't even know what God's will is, but so recently, within the last year, my dad has now come into the faith. He came into the Easter Vigil 2 years ago on Easter, and then my mother is becoming very, very open to the faith, and she wants to find a home. And so maybe, who knows what the future might hold with that, but the conversations are no longer, there's no longer this friction, because what she's experiencing is two realities: the church she thought the Catholic Church was, and the church she's experiencing through just us living it and the people that she meets. And I'd like to hope, my story impacts that. And
there's a great quote by Fulton Sheen who talks about that. I'm sure you probably heard of it, but it says, nobody actually hates the Catholic Church, but they hate what they perceive as the Catholic Church. And
And so I think that's why, going back to that living the mystery, by living out what the Catholic faith is, and by showing them that there are these two realities, their perception and what it actually is. And so, yeah, my mom's becoming open to it. My stepsister, we say, oh, happy fault, maybe my stepsister may have never known about the faith if all of this didn't happen. And so she is in London right now, and she's going through OCIA there, and she'll be coming into the church this Easter. And
that's amazing.
And one of the coolest stories I have from all of this is that, so when I was in my college era, going through my party stage, I remember, we would go to the Bahamas, we'd always hang out. And my stepdad's business partner, who I'm not going to name, but he would always go. He was this old man, always considered him like a grandpa. Yeah. And he saw me in my crazy era. So this last summer, I had the opportunity to be a summer seminarian at my home parish, Precious Blood of Christ. And randomly, me and Father Paul had went to offer last rites to somebody at the hospital. Yeah. And I bumped into his wife at the hospital. Wow. And while we were there, they asked me if I could pray for him. So I just said a quick little prayer. And then a month passed. I was kind of going through like a rough patch back here of just being back from summer. And I needed just a confirmation that I should continue and to keep walking with God. And they called me on that same day that I said, God, if you want me, you're going to have to fight for me. And they called me and they said, Will, he's on his deathbed and we want you to come pray for him. Wow. So me and Father Paul come up, and in front of my entire family, he receives anointing of the sick and the apostolic pardon as a baptized Christian. In my entire family, every single person who has ever been influenced in my life is hearing the words of the apostolic pardon. Everyone's bawling and crying. Wow. And in that moment, I heard someone in the back said, isn't it great that he didn't he didn't continue in the restaurants, and he's doing this? And, and I just sat there and I cried and I said, I had never imagined from that first moment that I became Catholic that this faith would influence my life to this degree, to where people are converting, to people are receiving the anointing of the sick and the apostolic pardon. And
you going to seminary.
And it's like just, I guess the theme that we've been talking about this whole time is that sacramental life. And
it's real. It's crazy because, there's not enough, there truly is not enough, there's not good enough words to actually describe the way it impacts us, right? And how much we truly need that, how much we depend on it. In particular, there's a lot of, when we talk about, a part of the beauty of your story is that your witness has led to other people's conversions, right? Yeah. That's awesome. And there's a twofold, that goes back to the time of the apostles, how they evangelized. They evangelized by their preaching. They evangelized by bringing people to the sacraments, and they evangelized by their witness, right? Yeah. They evangelized by their deaths. Yeah. Right? The blood of the martyrs is the seed of the church, right? And so, and we, as a less intensified version, we die to ourselves every day, right? Or at least we're supposed to. Mm-hmm. And when people see that, little drops of grace get planted, and it just takes a little time, and then at some point, God comes around and he starts watering, puts a little sun on it, right? Yeah. And then fruit starts to grow.
And you're like, what?
Yeah, exactly. And most of the time, it's out of places you thought would never even.
It's like we see the barren wife bears a son, the virginal womb bears a womb, the stump of Jesse. The sprout is sprouting from the stump of Jesse, and so it's just. The sacraments are real, and in many ways you don't see the fruit for a long time, but I've definitely been blessed to be able to see some of the fruit, but we've got a good faith, bro.
Absolutely, we're grounded. Excuse me, we're very grounded, and it's talking about the sacramental life. There's a beautiful quote in the documentary of Mass of the Ages. I think it's the first episode, and I encourage each of you guys to watch that if you haven't already. But there's a priest, I'm pretty sure he's from the Chicago area, and he talks about the liturgy and how it impacts people. I think you probably can honestly relate to this. But he said, the goal of the liturgy is not to evangelize. The goal of the liturgy is to worship God. But people are evangelized when they see that worship done so beautifully, so reverently, so mysteriously, right? And, we have here at our apostolate, we have three main pillars of how we try and operate. And that's beauty, tradition, and testimony. And beauty, right? Beauty speaks to us and honestly communicates the deepest parts of reality that you can't really put into words, right?
Yeah.
And a part of that beauty, right, is when you see the beauty of God in the Mass, when you see the beauty of God through the sacraments, right? And again, we're incarnate beings. We need some level of incarnate reality to help us to get to the spiritual reality, right?
Yeah.
And there's so much depth to that. We can have a whole another podcast.
Oh, yeah.
But for the sake of time, we'll have to wrap things up. But again, thank you, Will, so much for coming on the podcast and for your witness. If you don't know now, you have a lot of people who admire you, you have a lot of people who look up to you, and our audience, myself included, everyone on the L99 team will be praying for you and your continued discernment in seminary, and God willing, be a priest in 6 years?
6 years.
6 years, yeah. Praise God.
Yeah, man. I'll be praying for you guys as well, and
thank you.
Thank you for having me, man.
Of course. To everybody watching, remember there's a battle going on for your soul, so stay in that battle. And God bless you all. Have a great rest of your day.